Hello. Today I'm going to put the abstract theory that I used in the first video introducing the Procurator into practice. As I said, the Procurator is Jackrabbit's full-blown grid bot. It is a market maker, providing your exchange bestows market fees on you. One of the things, though, is you need a range, and that is what we're going to demonstrate today and actually set up the bot appropriately. So I've chosen STEP as my coin of choice. I've put a chart up in the daily format so I can figure out the high and the low of the coin. So here would be a good high. It's far enough back that the market looks like it's trending fairly consistent within that point. And here would be a good low. Again, it's far enough back that the market looks like it's going to hold for a while. You can go back further if you're more comfortable with a longer range. With that information, I have created a spreadsheet, and we're going to go through that right now. Here are my high and low values off of the chart. Now, I've chosen a 30% deviation. So my high value needs to be 30% higher than the chart, or the top value of the grid. So I want my top grid line to be 30% more than the highest value of my range that I've expected. This is to give me padding. I don't want the price action to leave the grid too quickly. The same holds true for the low value. Same thing, 30% deviation or padding. And I want the bottom of my grid to be 30% below the low value of the chart. Now, for the purposes of this grid, I want to have a 1% profit. At this point, everything has been identical to equilibrium or a standard infinity grid bot. But with Procurator, everything now changes for the better and for much more capabilities. So using the high price, 1% of the high price is 16 pips. If we were to use the low price, 1% of the low price is 2 pips. There is a distinction as to why this is so different. With an infinity-based bot like Equilibrium, you don't have a range. You don't have an absolute high or an absolute low. So subsequently, the only value you can use is the current high value that the infinity bot has actually seen at that moment. In Equilibrium's case, every time it clears off and resets to the next trade cycle, and it reaches the point of clearing off the entire ladder, that becomes the high point. And that is the percentage by which each grid is based. With the Procurator, you can use either 16 pips between the range or 2 pips between the range and still get a 1% profit. That may seem hard to believe, but it simply depends on the perspective of the market direction you are looking at. If you're looking at the market from the highest price downward, then you're looking at 16 pips. If you're looking at the market at the lowest price upward, then you're looking at 2 pips. The difference, of course, is 8 times. So empirically speaking, using the 2 pips as the bottom boundary step, you are empirically making an 8% profit from the low value going up every time the 1% high value going down would profit. But the consequences are the number of steps and the budget. For example, if your position size was $1, this would require a $100 budget using the high value or 16 pips between your steps. If you're using the low value or 2 pips between steps, your budget is $680. Now the $680 budget is going to give you more profit much quicker, but you will pay more fees per run. You're simply going to end up accumulating more transactions. For every transaction based upon the high value, you are going to have 8 transactions based upon the low value. That's part of your risk assessment and part of your budget. And that is why Procurator cannot use percentages directly. Because you could even take in between all of this and pick a value that is between the high and the low. For example, that would be 7 pips as an average. And that would have its own number of steps. So you need to be aware of each of these potential situations, as this gives you much more surgical power. You literally have a whole complete new outlook on grid trading. And depending upon your direction, if you take the high value going downwards, you're trading defensively. If you take the low value going upwards, you're trading aggressively. Basically speaking, again using empirical numbers that this spreadsheet represents, the low value upwards using 2 pips in the long term is going to make 8 times more profit than a high value going downward. That being said, though, you have 8 times more risk. So that is a problem you need to be aware of, because that will be impacted by your fees as well. So at each level, there's give and trade and averages. This isn't give and take and averages, because the exchange is going to charge you your fees based upon the boundary line. So high boundary lines are going to be penalized versus low boundary lines if you think the market is going to remain low. But if you have low boundary lines, you are going to potentially make more profit if it stays at the lower level. So they kind of cancel each other out to some degree depending upon your risks. Personally, looking at this combination, since I would not put $680 into this coin to begin with, I would be more likely to choose the 100 steps, or even really look at a different percentage altogether based upon how the market works. But this is your first step. This is where you figure out what you want to do before you do it. This is how you actually maintain and set up your grid. So now let's actually get into the VPS and put this into practice. Okay, now that we are in the VPS, first thing of course is always update. From the GitHub Jackrabbit relay folder, simply type /update and let it proceed with the various updates necessary. Okay, there are two ways of going about this. You can simply change into the extras Procurator folder, or you can go through Midnight Commander. Okay, here we are. Here is the files. As I've said, this is spot only. Now, normally, once you've installed this, it would run as you see in the update section. But if you haven't installed this to begin with, it will not run until you manually install it. Once you've manually installed it, all future updates will do this for you, making sure you have the right code to work with. So now let's go find. Okay, here is an example of an operating gridbot. As I mentioned in the last video, this is my Audius grid. You can see the boundaries clearly defined where I'm using 5 pips. Excuse me, 5 pips. So you see when it buys, when it sells. You can see when things go weird with the exchange. Okay, here is the startup of a program, and you can see it reloading the order list, and again closing out buys and opening sells, or closing out a sell and opening a buy. Now when you close out a sell, you're making a profit. Now this is using a much tighter range, and in this case I'm using 3 pips, as you can see from the screen above. So it has a very narrow range to make a very good profit. So now let's actually look at the file structure. Okay, we're going to go into the working folder, and you're going to see the grid file of the 2 systems I have working and the order list file. Unlike Equilibrium's grid file, the order list file is a complete representation of all of the orders on the exchange. So, every one of these orders has an order ID. The order list stores all of that information so it can constantly track, update, and identify when positions open and close and when it needs to move from a buy to a sell and vice versa. So let's take a look at the first example, and that is with TRX. I'm going to view the order list file, and you'll see it's a mess. I don't recommend it really. but I want you to see what's stored in it. Because if this file is damaged, it wrecks your grid. So this file needs to be protected as much as possible. It is a complete full-scale list of every order for this asset that is currently open. And you'll see at the top of it that this coin has so far made 6 cents worth of profit. So let's get out of that and let's go down to the audio order list, or the Audius coin. This coin has made 17 cents profit, and its order list, which is a mess. Now, let's look at the configuration. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward, not that different from Equilibrium. But you see the pips, you see the top and the bottom, all in relation to what we just demonstrated on the spreadsheet. Just like Equilibrium, you have a take profit, in this case 20 cents, and every time I make that take profit, I want to purchase USDT. So I want to purchase 20 cents of USDT out of every profit I make. And I am trading audio USDT. So this is kind of a unique little approach where I'm backfeeding it into the system. But I'm doing it in a traceable way. And I really should be doing USDC, so that's a mistake. But you can see it works. And I can track it. That's the important part. So it looks strange, but I have fingerprints of tracking my profits in a literal context. But now I'm going to show you a better representation of your profits that doesn't look so confusing. Here is 20 cents, and I'm transferring that into USDT, but my asset is on USD. So all of my profits are going to be in USDT, even though my quote currency is USD. This is a clearer way of demonstrating profitability without using so many esoteric metrics. It works well, it's simple. Again, you see the number of pips, you see top and bottom for the range. If you're dealing with an asset above $1, you should really probably use steps and not pips. But now, enough jabbering, let's actually figure out how to do this. Now, normally you would start out by copying the config file off of the GitHub webpage, so you have to use it. But since I have a working file, I'm going to cheat. Okay, let's move to my working area. And now, okay, here are the configuration files. So I'm going to copy my FTX one. I'm going to copy the CFG. Remember, you have to be careful not to damage your order list file. Again, if you have a copy already, you can use it. If you don't, just copy what is on the GitHub webpage and then use an editor for your next stop. Okay, so now we're going to make the changes. I'm dealing with the perpetuals, so STEP. For step. Now, okay, I have pasted in the information I had on the spreadsheet. That way I can make the changes I need appropriate to exactly what I am working with. So for the purposes of my budget, I'm going to use $16 pips. My top is going to be my bottom is going to be I wanted to purchase 20 cents of USDT every time my profits exceed that level. I want to trade step. I want to trade at 16 pips, which will give me 100 steps. I want a top and my bottom as stated, and I want one position size. Okay, now that's it. We now need to get it to save. Whoops. And of course, this keyboard is being difficult. There we go. Okay, we have it saved. Now, the startup process is identical to Equilibrium, but I recommend that you don't just start it up in the background, because I can tell you right now, this particular setup for my situation for this account is going to blow it up because it doesn't have the required amount in the budget. But we'll see. Maybe I can get lucky because I needed to demonstrate the cleanup process anyway. Okay, so let's get out. All right, we're here. So I'm in my virtual console. Okay, so now you can put this in a separate configuration file just like Equilibrium, but since I only have 3 running for right now, it's just in one file, or one directory, excuse me. So you have your command, you have your setup configuration file, you've verified your numbers, you've double checked them, you've made sure you've got the budget, and if you don't and it blows up, this will probably demonstrate that. And it is off and running and placing all of the orders necessary. Remember that your budget is reserved up front. So it's showing you what level and what price. Now it just switched from the sell orders to the buy orders, and it is now placing all of those. It is now switching and setting everything up. Procurator works by placing buy orders only during the initial stage. That way it doesn't have to worry about calculating the budget because the exchange automatically knows what that budget is. So once the tables are set up, the first thing your exchange is going to do is fulfill all those open orders because it meets the price boundary. And that is what is happening at this stage. All the price boundaries have been met. So it is fulfilling all of those orders appropriately. And it will run until it does so. And then once it's completed the last order, now it is just waiting, watching the order book, watching whether or not your orders are being fulfilled by the exchange. So in the case of an open buy order, if the exchange fulfills the buy order, then what will happen is the Procurator will get a message that the order has been fulfilled. It will then immediately open up a limit order at the selling boundary, which you can see on your screen exactly how that works. You can see it better on this screen without FTX's noise. Close buy at 0607, open sell at 0610. So it closed the buy order, it made the purchase, and then it opened the sell order, and it's waiting for the exchange to close that out, which it did right afterwards. Close sell order at 0613, open buy order at 0610. So you can see it moving through the grid as each layer transitions. And you can see the bottom two, close sell order and then close buy order, where it made a profit on a sell, then it opened a buy order. And then on the next line, or the very last line, it closed out the buy order and it opened up a sell order. So it moves back and forth in between these grids at each level. Every time a purchase is made, the corresponding sell order to that grid is placed. Every time a sell is made, the corresponding buy order to that is placed. Now, let's see what happens if things could blow up. Okay, something went wrong, you stopped the program. Now, normally the launcher would just wait and kick in. But I'm going to pretend to be the launcher for demonstration purposes. It will restart, it will reload the configuration, and then it will reload the order list, picking up the 207 orders in that list. And it will continue to function, hopefully, without any issues. Now, it is important that you remember all of these orders are already on the exchange. This is not like Equilibrium, where there is some forgiveness to work with. These orders are live. These orders are functioning. So if something horribly goes wrong, something's horribly gone wrong, the program is stopped. All 100 of those orders that I placed, they are still on the exchange. The sell orders and the buy orders, which means there's a mess. Let's see. And we can verify that by actually listing the open orders. Of course, you can also see it on your exchange account as well. All of these orders are open. Something's gone wrong though. The program is not working. We need to clean this mess up. Well, this is the way to do it. Or in my case, cheating, since I've already got the line. Now you can just cancel all orders, and that will cancel the orders, but it will not sell what was already purchased. If you want to sell what was already purchased as well, then you need to run this kind of command. You can do this from the exchange. Cancel all of these orders and sell the asset. You don't have to necessarily use these commands unless you're using a KuCoin sub-account. And then this is the only way to fix the mess. And as you can see, sometimes things don't work. Because, well, I type wrong. Okay, now that I have the command right, you have to put the market, in this case futures market, for clean mess up to work right. And I should be rewarded with it cleaning the mess up. Now you will have to manually delete the order list file as well. The Procurator is a lot of headaches when it comes to dealing with the orders, because unfortunately there's no other way around it. Everything lives on the exchange, and this final part shows where I sold off everything that was racked up. Short, sweet, and simple. So that's really it. It's a simple process. It works well. You just have to make absolutely sure that everything you have planned is planned carefully. Ranged trading, like what the Procurator does, is profitable. Just make sure you plan out everything in a spreadsheet. Make sure you start here. Think about the market. Think about how long you want to be in the market. And most importantly, think about your budget and risk. Because while this can be a money-making treasure trove, it can be a big problem if the market goes against you on an asset that isn't very stable. As I said in the abstract video regarding Procurator, this is a rags to riches or a riches to rags story. You are the determining factor on whether or not this will make money or this will lose money. It can do well. It can do very well. But it can also do horrendous. Careful planning of your asset is always the first step to successful trading. Let me know if you have any questions regarding the process, the equations necessary for figuring out your ranges. Leave a comment below. Let me know what your experience has been with other traditional grid bots in relation to how this one will do. As always, like, subscribe, share it with others. It really does help the YouTube algorithm for those likes and subscribes. And YouTube is still saying that anywhere from 27% to 45% of my viewers are not subscribed. Subscribing and liking the video lets me know where to focus my attention for the content of these videos. So it really is beneficial to me, so I can produce videos that can help reach greater audiences with information that is relevant to what they are seeking. Until next time.